Thank you for watching Scary Bear Attacks. If you like this episode, please remember to hit the like button and leave a comment or two, then subscribe and click on the bell to receive notifications of whenever we release new videos. Also, please remember to share them to your social media.
Welcome back to Scary Bear Attacks. Today's episode takes us back to the area around Island Park, to an unincorporated town called Last Chance in Fremont County, Idaho. This area is high elevation, around 6,200 feet above sea level, and basks in 3 times the annual rainfall of surrounding altitudes. The Island Park caldera pushed this area to higher elevations, and during one of its eruptions, spewed ash that covered the land from the Mississippi River to southern California. It is one of the world's largest volcanoes, and is the source of the geysers and geothermal wonders. The elk, deer, and moose navigate the hot springs and mud pots, oblivious to the risks. Predators such as bobcats, black bears, coyotes, cougars, and grizzly bears patrol the land, limiting populations and keeping them healthy. The dense stands of lodgepole pine and Douglas fir provide shelter in snowy weather, while quaking aspens, black locusts, and a few species of maple trees provide fall color and beauty. The many ponds and springs of the area provide water and places for berry bushes to grow. A few miles south of Island Park is where Last Chance is seated. It is the kind of insular town that if you blink as you drive down the highway, you might miss it. It is called Last Chance because it's 40 miles from West Yellowstone and the entrance to Yellowstone National Park. On the evening of June 6, 2024, a couple whom we'll refer to as Phil and Julie were pulling up to their home with a new batch of groceries. They had the usual staples of bread and butter, but one of the unusual items in their grocery haul was a shotgun. Phil had brought it along apparently on a hunch, and one thing you shouldn't do is ignore your gut when it comes to grizzlies. As Phil was loading his arms with groceries, he headed toward the front door when he heard Julie scream out. His head snapped to the end of the driveway, and he took in the dark outline of a grizzly bear just as it began stepping toward Julie. Knowing he didn't have much time to react, Phil dropped the groceries and scrambled for the shotgun in the back of the vehicle. Now, Phil and Julie were no greenhorns when it came to grizzlies. The entire community has formed a series of social media sites to help visitors and residents keep in mind that they live in bear country. The local ranger station gives out bear spray in an attempt to be proactive in preventing bear attacks, and the locals support educational events to learn about how to avoid them. The area residents work hard to form a realistic balance between living with the bears while insisting they are safe from the bears who cross the line. As Phil lifted the shotgun to his shoulder, the grizzly closed in on Julie. With only a few yards separating the bear and Julie, Phil fired a single shot that shuddered the bear. The round had a deterring effect on the grizzly, and it veered off. The bear disappeared into the forest surrounding the property, leaving the couple shaken but uninjured. Now having dealt with the threat from the charging grizzly, Julie and Phil finished unloading their vehicle while keeping a wary eye out for the bear. There's no source indicating whether they reported the incident to wildlife officers or not, but given the bear had fled, they may not have reported it without knowing the outcome. The following day, the Idaho Fish and Game received a phone call from a concerned citizen. They called in to report a dead grizzly lying by the road and requested the officers investigate. An investigative team converged on the location of the dead grizzly and examined its carcass. Based on the entry wound, they could tell the shot was fired in self-defense. Word got around regarding the grizzly's aggressive behavior toward Julie and Phil. After a review of the events, the officers decided that Phil's actions were justified, and he was not cited for any violation about the bear's death. The bear's carcass did reveal a few important details the investigators utilized. It was found to be an otherwise healthy young male grizzly. There was no animal carcass cached nearby, and the bear was not acting in defense of itself or cubs. Speaking of cubs, our Cub Tier membership on Patreon, linked below, will give you ad-free early access to our episodes, and the $3 per month goes a long way in helping me continue to produce educational and entertaining content like this. In prior episodes, we've discussed that male bears, particularly young male bears, are more likely to attack humans than sows or females. The yearling male involved in this attack may have been driven from more competitive territories and was searching for a territory of his own. As populations increase and sows with cubs crowd closer to human development, young males may create many problems as they cannot defend optimal territory and may not be accepted near a sow with new cubs, regardless of food supply. Over the last year, there have been 3 other incidents in Idaho where grizzlies were killed by people defending their lives, all of which are episodes on this channel. All 3 incidents occurred near Island Park, indicating that grizzlies there demonstrate a more aggressive attitude toward people than in nearby areas. After reviewing the facts surrounding this episode, I'm left with a few questions for you. Do you think bear spray would have prevented this attack, or was this young male grizzly already headed for a disastrous outcome? Was the grizzly curious, or was it behaving in a predatory manner? Is the loss of a grizzly a significant concern, or have grizzlies recovered enough to accept the death of individuals in these types of circumstances? I'll gladly read and reply to your thoughts, so please post them in the comments section below, and let's talk about it.
Welcome back to Scary Bear Attacks. Today's episode takes us to the high Carpathian Mountains in Romania. The Carpathians sprawl over 1,300 kilometers through Central Europe, from Romania to Germany, from Ukraine to the Czech Republic. The South Carpathians stretch across Romania and Serbia, which hosts 65% of Europe's virgin forests. With peaks that rise over 8,300 feet in elevation, the Southern Carpathians are as wild and untouched by civilization as anywhere in the world. Romania is famous for its wilderness and hosts one of the most known regions, Transylvania. The rugged mountains here host wild boar, red deer, roe deer, chamois, and bison. Predators, including humans, have hunted here for untold eons in pursuit of them. Wild mushrooms and truffles provide nearly every animal in the forest food, and berry bushes yield blackberries, huckleberries, and whortleberries in their season. Predators here include 3,500 wolves, 2,400 Eurasian lynx, and 8,000 brown bears. On May 14, 2023, 63-year-old Andreas Keeling was several days into a photography expedition near the border of Romania and Serbia. Andreas was an award-winning documentarian who filmed and photographed nature and hosted Keeling's Wild World in Germany. He lived in the town of Hummel in Ahrweiler district and was a celebrated author and lecturer regarding nature and conservation. He was so celebrated in his nation that he was awarded the Federal Cross of Merit in October 2015, a high honor for 32 years of work. His pursuit of nature had taken him all over the world, and his travels were not without danger. Brown bears had attacked Andreas on 2 different visits in Alaska, but his passion for photography and videography was undampened by the terror and pain. His trip to Romania was supposed to be much safer, as he was taking photographs of waterfowl, so it should have been safe and relaxing. I could find no source indicating Andreas brought along bear spray or a firearm on his trip to the Carpathians. As Andreas zoomed in on ducks, he stashed himself in the brush, decked from head to toe in camouflage, so the sharp-eyed birds didn't pick him out. Unbeknownst to Andreas, his scent must have drifted on the breeze to far more dangerous animals than ganders and drakes. As Andreas focused on snapping the perfectly timed shots, a thunderous crash arose from the brush about 30 yards from his blind. Glancing up, he saw a huge and angry brown bear bounding toward him. Hoping the bear would pull up just short of him, Andreas readied himself with the only weapon he had, his camera tripod. By the time Andreas had lifted the tripod, the bear was upon him, with its mouth open wide, showing glistening yellow teeth. He jammed the tripod into the bear's mouth, hoping it would deter the bear, but with a twist of its head, the brute tossed the tripod from between them. The force of the bear's head toss turned Andreas's body and allowed the bear to bite into his upper left arm. With teeth as big around at the base as an American nickel and a bite force of 1,160 pounds per square inch, the bear tore and gashed his arm to bleeding ribbons of flesh and broken bone. Now terrified that the bear was intent on killing him and not just running him off, Andreas knew the next step the bear would take. He threw his arms around his head and neck and tried his best to keep from screaming, focusing on fighting back while keeping the bear's powerful jaws from crushing his skull. Unlike other bear attack victims who reported feeling no pain, As some victims enter a dissociative state of mind, Andreas felt every single tooth of each bite as the bear's teeth tore through his flesh. The pain was overwhelming and brought him to the threshold of fainting at several points. But he never screamed and never fainted. Fighting from his back, Andreas suddenly felt an immense and crushing pressure on his left forearm. The bear had shifted the focus of its attack from his upper left arm to his left forearm as he covered his head and neck. The smaller bones of his lower arm shattered like toothpicks in the bear's jaws, and repeated bites crushed them further. After his forearm was shattered, Andreas had no means to keep the bear from biting onto his skull. The bear drove its 2-inch teeth through his scalp and raked a flap of skin from the top of his head toward his forehead. Having filmed brown bears as they fought each other, Andreas knew that if he submitted to the bear, it would let up its attack on him. He had watched the near-silent bear battles many times, witnessing lesser bears lay on their backs as a sign of submission to a more powerful bear. Applying this knowledge, Andreas silently submitted to the angry bear, and it relented its attack on him. It isn't clear how Andreas made his way out of the remote location, but he turned up at a local hospital. Surgeons removed shattered bone fragments from his arm and cleaned his wounds. Suturing gashed flesh shut, they pulled his scalp back over his skull and reattached it to its prior place. Before departing the scene, he snapped a few pictures of his wounds because, photography. He calls his scars a real man versus wild tattoo and places the blame for the attack solely on his own shoulders. He admits he entered the bear's territory knowing full well the potential for an attack, having already lived through 4 wild animal attacks before, 2 of which were from brown bears. Andreas acknowledged that the attack may have occurred due to him encroaching on an unknown food cache, interrupting a mating ritual, or the bear may have been protecting cubs. Speaking of cubs, our Cub Tier membership on Patreon, linked below, will give you ad-free early access to our episodes, and Andreas's attack photos are posted there, so you can see the damage done to his body by the bear. The $3 per month goes a long way in helping me continue to produce educational and entertaining content like this. After his attack, Andreas displayed his blood-soaked clothing to anyone interested in seeing them. After his release from the hospital, a Good Samaritan was generous enough to drive him the 22 hours back to Hummel. Andreas describes bears as existing in a parallel society. He notes that they see humans as just another predatory species, like wolves or lions. His statements allude to the possibility that the bear attacked him out of territorial motives. Between 2004 and 2021, Romania was the site of 240 bear attacks on people. These attacks led to 22 deaths and 274 injuries. In the year of 2023, Romanian wildlife officers processed around 7,500 emergency calls reporting brown bear activity. After reviewing the facts surrounding this episode, I'm left with a few questions for you. Why wouldn't a successful photographer who had experienced 4 other animal attacks bring along bear spray? Why do you think the bear attacked Andreas? Did the photographer's submission bring the bear attack to an end? What would you do if you looked up from your camera and a huge brown bear was quickly closing in on you? I will gladly read and reply to your thoughts, so please post them in the comments section below, and let's talk about it.
Welcome back to Scary Bear Attacks. Today's episode takes us to familiar territory and a place close to my heart. Island Park is an incorporated town in northeast Idaho. It's only 500 feet wide and boasts the longest main street of any city at 33 miles long. The elevation here is 6,293 feet above sea level, making it the highest city in Idaho. Peaks surrounding the town reach over 10,000 feet high, which gives you an idea of how rigorous and demanding the terrain can be. According to the Köppen climate classification system, this area is very near the subarctic climate classification, with long cold winters and short, warm summers. Island Park is exceptional compared to areas of similar altitude in the greater Yellowstone ecosystem, as it gets around 30 inches of rainfall each year, nearly tripling surrounding areas. This rainfall allows dense growths of evergreens like lodgepole pine and Douglas fir. In the fall, deciduous trees like Rocky Mountain maple, alder, birch, and quaking aspen trees dazzle observers with their red and golden leaves. The ample rainfall allows dense thickets of western chokecherry, golden currant, serviceberry, and thimbleberry bushes to offer up their sweet perfection in season. Along the numerous ponds, you'll find willow and alder bushes potentially hiding one of the many dangerous animals that call this place home. Near Henry's Lake lies the Caribou-Targhee National Forest with its expansive wilderness that spans parts of Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming. There's abundant wildlife here, with mule deer, elk, and moose commonly spotted. The predators here include bobcats, black bears, coyotes, cougars, wolves, and grizzly bears. Its remote privacy has allowed grizzlies to flourish here, and this year has been a very busy one when it comes to grizzlies. Local cattlemen have reported many of their cattle falling prey to hungry grizzlies. The moose population has been decimated by a tick infestation, according to Idaho Fish and Game officers, but ticks aren't the only things that kill moose. In May of 2024, a sow grizzly and her cubs began displaying aggressive tendencies toward people. They'd become food conditioned and had lost their fear and tendency to avoid civilization. The sow and her cubs were put down because they represented a danger to humans. On June 6, 2024, a man in Island Park was forced to kill a charging grizzly as it bore down on his girlfriend, and that episode will be out this Thursday. According to the Idaho Fish and Game, this year is the first year grizzlies have been documented to be west of Interstate 15 and are clearly and rapidly expanding their territory. Around 7 a.m. on Sunday, September 1, 2024, two elk hunters were sneaking through the timber near Divide Creek Road. They were archery hunters, which is most successfully done in camouflage, and silently or quietly progressing through the forest or along meadows. Archery hunters frequently wear animal scents, like skunk or elk urine, to mask their own. To blend in with the forest even more, they'll often use sound-producing devices known as calls that will mimic the sound of bugling bull elk rivals, lovesick cow elk searching for a mate or a herd, or a lost and panicked calf trying to find its mother. The archery hunters' identities have not been made public as of the date of the production of this video, so we will refer to them as Bill and Ted. Now, these two hunters were experienced archery hunters, and they knew they were venturing into dangerous country, but could not have known to expect grizzly bears in this area. The ferocious predators have been observed on the east side of Interstate 15 connecting Idaho and Montana, but not yet on the west side. As far as the hunters knew, they were not in grizzly bear country. Just the same, they both packed powerful sidearms, which is best practice in the rugged and remote mountains of western states. As Bill and Ted made their way through dense lodgepole pines, they were likely bugling to locate bull elk and mewing like lost cow elk in an attempt to find a herd, or even a straggler. A common bugling strategy is one hunter calls, while the other positions himself along a predictable path to intercept the incoming game animal. If they can fool the forest king into bow range, they might get a shot and harvest some healthy meat. If not, they reboot the plan and try again. It isn't clear if they were drawing in any elk, but one thing is for certain, a very large male grizzly bear had heard the dinner bell and was coming in on a rope. The archery hunters were taken completely by surprise by the grizzly's thundering charge from a few dozen yards away. Grizzly bear paws have a thick rubber-like sole that distributes their weight and allows for near silence as they stalk. As the hungry boar broke through the brush, it must have caught Ted in its vision first, as it headed directly toward him. In the confusion of a massive gray-brown blur streaking through the green and tan forest, the men yelled to ward off the bear as it closed in on Ted. Both hunters pulled their sidearms from their holsters and hoped the grizzly would veer off in a bluff charge. But, as in many bear attack stories, that's not what happened. The angry boar slapped Ted to the ground after the first of several shots rang out from the hunter's pistols. Despite having several rounds sent in its direction, and likely at least a few through its body, the grizzly bit onto Ted's arm and tore at his flesh. Bill's shots may have been the deciding factor in ending the attack, given he was only a short distance from the bear as it mauled Ted. After enough hot lead had been sent its way, the wounded bear backed off. Its attack on Ted had been curtailed by the damage and incapacitation imparted by the defensive rounds fired by the hunters. The grizzly spun and disappeared into the brush, leaving the men shaken and Ted bleeding and in pain. Listening as the bear broke a retreat through the brush, Bill approached his hunting partner to assess the damage done to his arm. Both men retrieved their cell phones and dialed 911 in near unison to reach out for help. The dispatcher contacted emergency medical helicopter personnel, and a rescue plan was underway. Ted was gathered up and flown to Eastern Idaho Regional Medical Center in Idaho Falls. His wounds were considered serious, but not life-threatening, due to the preparation and reaction of Ted and his hunting partner. The Idaho Fish and Game, Fremont County Sheriff's deputies, and Caribou-Targhee National Forest Emergency Medical Service teams wasted no time in sending responders to interview both hunters and begin fact and evidence gathering around the incident. Grizzlies are federally protected in the lower 48, and each time one is killed, the circumstances surrounding it must be looked into. The IFG determined that Bill and Ted's grizzly encounter was a surprise event at a close distance. The hunters were found to have acted in self-defense and would not be charged with any violation due to their actions. Idaho Fish and Game Supervisor Matt Perrin commented that he was hoping for a speedy recovery from the injuries and trauma for both hunters, and remarked how wonderful their family members were. While investigators were at the attack scene, and after a brief search, the bear's carcass was located and its death was confirmed. The carcass was recovered and removed as evidence for further analysis. To understand the causes of the attack, investigators searched the area and found no animal carcass that was cached by the grizzly. It was a boar, so it was not protecting cubs. Speaking of cubs, our Cub Tier membership on Patreon, linked below, will give you ad-free early access to our episodes, and the $3 per month goes a long way in helping me continue to produce educational and entertaining content like this. Authorities indicate this is the first grizzly bear attack on a human in the area this year. In the greater Yellowstone ecosystem, there are reportedly an estimated 1,900 grizzly bears in an area of 18,000 square miles. This means grizzly bear density is around 1 grizzly for every 9.5 square miles. To give you an idea of that area, take a part of your city that is 3 miles long and 3 miles wide and drop a grizzly bear in the middle of it. For every 30 miles you travel down a gravel road on your mountain bike, you may be traversing the boundaries of 10 grizzly bear territories. After reviewing the facts surrounding this episode, I'm left with a few questions for you. What do you think archery hunters can do to avoid grizzly bear attacks and still enjoy bow hunting? Is this attack another case of 2 apex predators doing what they do? Does this attack remind you of the attack on Ronnie Leeming and his father, or the 2 Idaho archery hunters that occurred almost exactly 11 months before this one? I've linked to both episodes in the video article below for your review. I'll gladly read and reply to your thoughts, so please post them in the comments section below, and let's talk about it.
Thank you for watching Scary Bear Attacks. If you've enjoyed this episode, please consider clicking on the like button and clicking on the bell icon. We'll help you know when we post our new episodes. Posting our video links to your social media profiles furthers awareness, and it's fun. We've slashed our prices in our merch store, linked below, so check out the bargains there while you shop. As a member of our human community, remember to adventure bravely and be careful out there, especially in bear country.